you today? I'm back with yet another video, and I am so sorry that it took me so long to post another video, but I'll try to do better going forward. So today's video is going to touch on two things. One is measuring issue, and by measuring issue I mean that have you ever been in a situation where it like drives you nuts when you're trying to weigh the quantity of protein and the quantity of vegetables, quantity of carbs. Sometimes it just goes crazy. You don't know how much, how much to add, and then there are some ingredients that either reduce in quantity or increase in quantity after they are cooked. So it just adds to the confusion. If you have been in that type of situation like I have, then this video is for you, and hope it helps resolve that. And the second topic that this video is going to touch on is using a different type of carb other than rice. So if this topics interest you, then this video is for you, and please keep watching. If not, then please check out my other videos, and hopefully that inspires you to start home cooking for your dog. And as always, any of my videos are for info only, and you should always check with your vet or your pet nutritionist before switching your dog's food. And depending on your dog's health, age, activity level, the food that's considered balanced for your dog may not be the same for other dogs. So every dog is different. So please, use this video as a source of inspiration, but this does not replace your vet or pet nutritionist's, suggestions or whatever information they can provide you. I am not a vet, I am not a pet nutritionist. I'm just sharing my experiences with you with the hopes that it inspires you, and with the hopes that you will look into homemade dog food and cooking for your dogs, and steer them away from the store-bought foods. So thank you so much for watching this video, and let's start. So once the pan is hot, I'm about to add some organic coconut oil to it. I am taking 1 tablespoon of organic coconut oil here to 3 pounds of ground turkey and liver. This particular spoon is half a tablespoon, so I'm going to take 2 of that to make it 1 whole tablespoon. I'm just twirling the oil here since it's a stainless steel container. And to that I'm going to add the ground turkey. Now this is a 3 pounds container of ground turkey. And I'm just going to add it to the container and let it cook for a little bit before I add other ingredients. And here I'm just breaking down the turkey and mixing it properly so the coconut oil sort of evenly coats it. And also because I'm using a stainless steel container, so it tends to stick. So I like to scrape it as I cook. And a lot of people, they like to just dump everything in the pan and add water or stock, but I like to sort of roast or quickly cook the meat first before I add any sort of water or stock to it. Next I'm going to add ginger powder to it. Here I have taken about 1 teaspoon of ginger powder, And this is organic ground ginger powder that I've purchased from a local grocery store. Next, I'm going to add Himalayan pink salt to it. And I keep switching between Himalayan pink salt and the regular salt just because Himalayan pink salt does not have iodine and regular salt does. So I keep alternating it in my batches. So one batch I would use this, one batch I would use regular salt. Next I am adding turmeric powder to it. Now Himalayan pink salt, I've taken about 1 tablespoon Himalayan pink salt to this entire 3 pounds of turkey, and when I add the liver, and I'm not going to add any salt to the veggies and carb mixture that I'm going to make next. And the turmeric powder, I have taken about 1 teaspoon to 1 to 1.5 teaspoon of turmeric powder to it. If your dog does not like turmeric powder taste as much, then I would just recommend reducing it some, but I would definitely make sure to add turmeric powder to the food every time, just because it has such good anti-inflammatory and cancer reducing properties that I always use turmeric powder in my recipes. So once the turkey and the other ingredients are cooked a little bit and mixed up well, next I'm going to add chicken liver to it. So in this particular recipe, I have used 70% of protein, which is turkey, ground turkey in this case, and I have taken 5% of organ meat, which in this case is chicken liver. Now I'm just mixing it, and once it cooks up a little bit, I will add water to it. Couple of things. If your dog is allergic to chicken or poultry, you can use other dog-friendly proteins. For example, beef, venison, and such. Eggs is also a good source of protein. And for organ meat, you can keep changing the organ meat. Make sure it's dog friendly, and that's basically it. And I do add water, but some people, they do like to add stock or broth to it. You can do it as well. If you're using, let's say for example, chicken broth or beef broth or whatever, make sure you pick the unsalted version, because you would not want to add a lot of salt in the dog's diet. It's not good for them. They do need a little bit of iodine, but not a whole lot. So I would steer away from any type of salted products for the dog. So here I have taken mung beans or mung lentils. They are split. They do have their green skin on. So in that separate container, I have added 1 cup of washed mung lentils or split mung lentils. And to that, I am going to add 1 cup of peas and carrots mixture and 1 cup of spinach mixture. Now this quantity of vegetables and lentils mixture is not going to be used in entirety for this recipe. I'm just making a little extra so I can keep it on the side for my next batch, since I have to cook often for my 2 large dogs. So, but this particular ratio is I've just taken 1 cup of spinach, actually not 1 cup, sorry, it's 12 ounces of spinach, 12 ounces of peas and carrots back, and then I have taken 1 cup of washed split mung beans or mung lentils. So, and I'm going to cook them separately.
So here I'm just showing that the turkey and chicken liver has cooked enough to next add water to it. By the color of turkey and color of chicken liver, you can tell that it's at least cooked somewhat on the outside. And I like to cook it up to that level before I add water or stock or broth to my proteins for further cooking or pressure cooking. Now, one other thing, you can use an instant pot, you can use a slow cooker, you can use some other regular Dutch oven or whatever. I have this pressure cooker that I like to use just because it's such good size, and today actually I'm making half the size of batch that I usually make. So when I do make my regular size batch, this container really is very helpful for me. So now that I've added water, I'm just setting it to pressure cook it. It would take me about 20 minutes or so to turn off the stove by the time it's cooked. So I just keep an eye on it, but 20-25 minutes is more than enough time for this particular recipe in the pressure cooker. Also in the vegetable and lentil mixture, I'm now adding water. Now you can eyeball the water. So here I've added like about 3.5 cups of water to vegetable and lentil mixture, and about, I would say, 3 cups or so of water in the turkey mixture. And it's not an exact measurement, I just like to put enough water which submerges the protein, which submerges the vegetable and lentil mixture. And I like to keep it a little high on the water content just because when I store it in fridge or freezer, and you know it overnight, it tends to soak the water and all. So I just like to keep little additional water in my cooked batch. So if you want to reduce the water, and if you want to keep it like just mushy and not as watery, then feel free to do that. And next I'm just going to add a lid to the lentil and vegetable mixture pan and let it cook for a few minutes. And it's been about 20-25 minutes, and as you can see, the turkey and chicken liver mixture is fully cooked. So is the vegetable and lentil mixture. So in this particular recipe, now that I know how much carb I need to add, I am already adding it at this stage, but hold tight for my later portion of this video where I am also going to provide one other option which will make it even more easier to calculate how much vegetable and carb to add. In this particular case, I already know that I was supposed to add 2 cups of that carb and vegetable mixture, so I've already added it at this point. And this recipe is now ready. As you can see, all the ingredients are mixed well, and that is it.
Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying the video so far. So now that you have seen the recipe, let me touch on a few things. So in the beginning of this video, I told you that this video touches on 2 things. One is measuring, and second is using a different type of carb instead of rice. So for the second part, as you would have seen in the video, I have used lentils as a source of carb instead of rice. And lentils, I have used split mung beans with the the husk on or the skin on, and it's a very healthy lentil to feed your dog. It's actually very healthy lentil to eat ourselves. So it's considered one of the superfoods, I think. So please do your research, but in my personal experience, it is a great lentil to eat ourselves and to feed your dog. So if anytime you like to switch the carbs from rice to something else, lentils is one of my go-tos. The other type of carbs that I use oats. At times I use sweet potatoes, I use pumpkin. Now with pumpkin you have to be sure that you don't feed like too much. It's in moderation, same with I think sweet potatoes. But those are some of the options that you can use if you want to switch from rice to some other source of carbs when feeding your dog or cooking homemade food for your dog. So that's the second point of the two things that I wanted to touch on this video, right? And the first item, measuring. So as you would have noticed, I cooked the protein separately and I cooked the vegetables and carb mixture separately, and carb in this case is lentils. So I cooked the vegetables and lentils separately. By doing so, what happens is it helps me make sure that I am adding the correct quantity of vegetables and carbs to the protein. Because when I buy protein, and I'm sure it's the same with most of us, I don't know the exact pounds that I'm going to get because I buy the pre-packaged protein from stores. So it's like sometimes 4.57 pounds, sometimes 8.96 pounds. It just depends which package I'm choosing. And so when that's cooked and I add the organ meat to it, now the total quantity when it's in decimal points and then to calculate the carbs and vegetables for it sometimes gets confusing for me too. So what I do is when I cook them separately, at the time of feeding, I take the protein mixture, which in this particular recipe I've used 70% protein, 5% organ meat, and 25% mixture of vegetables and lentils. So when I would feed, so let's say my dog, I give them 2 cups of food each time. So from 2 cups, I would take 1.5 cup of the protein organ meat mixture, and I would take 1/2 cup of the vegetables and lentil mixture. So that gives me 75% and 25% ratio that I want to feed them. And now I have no confusion that am I feeding them the right quantity or not. So that's one way to do it. The second way to do it is once your protein is cooked, you can measure it in cups, for example, or grams, however you like, and put it in a container after you measure the protein, and now you know how much 25% of that is supposed to be. So then you can measure your vegetable and carb mixture and add that many cups to the protein mixture. In this case, I already knew, so I added the vegetable and lentil mixture in the pot directly. But other times when I don't know the exact measurement of protein, then I go by the first method. That is, I keep them in 2 separate containers and I actually measure it when I feed them. So that makes it really easy for me to make sure that I'm feeding them the right quantity. Other thing that I wanted to touch on is, and I've written some points here because sometimes what happens I've noticed is when I record these videos, I tend to forget all the points that I want to touch on. So this time I've made a list. So bear with me. So we touched on the measuring by cup and then adding the mixture. If you're measuring protein, in measuring the protein and putting it in one container and then measuring the veggie carb mixture and adding to the same container, you can do it that way, or you can do it while feeding. So we touched on that. The other thing that I wanted to touch on is when you feed your dog is when try to add the supplements, and that is specifically if you are reheating the food. So in my case, I do reheat my dog's food before feeding them. So I add the supplements right before feeding them. So I top it. I top the bowl with the supplements. Now, in case you're not reheating the food that you have made, then obviously before storing it, you can add the supplements and then you can store it all together. So It just depends on whether or not you reheat the food. I personally prefer adding the supplements when actually feeding them. Then the other thing that I wanted to note was that in addition to the supplements that I feed them to make sure that they get a balanced diet and they're not like short on any nutrients or something. So in addition to that, I also add cottage cheese, coconut oil, and pumpkin puree, and I alternate it by each day. So one day I'll give them coconut oil. The next day I'll give them, for example, cottage cheese. The next day I'll give them pumpkin puree. And for my dogs, I give them 1 teaspoon to 1 tablespoon a day, depending on which item I'm talking about. So if it's a pumpkin puree, I'll give 1 tablespoon. If it's cottage cheese, I give it 1 tablespoon. If it's coconut oil, I try to keep it 1 teaspoon for my dogs, but it can be 1 tablespoon too, depending on the size of your dog and their needs. So if their coats, their skin and their coat are not doing better, then you can always increase it to 1 tablespoon is what I've heard. Again, all this information is based on my personal experience, but please reach out to your vet or your pet nutritionist and confirm that what's right for your dog. And please take this advice or information as just an information to, you know, inspire yourself or to find out a different way to do something or a different type of recipe. So these videos are mainly to help you and you know, encourage you. So please take it as that. So that's basically what I wanted to touch on in this video, and I think I've touched on all the points. I'm so glad I made the list this time because I tend to forget. So if you like this video, please like it, subscribe it, and click on that bell icon so it notifies you when I create my next video. I am planning to create many more videos and more consistently than I have been, so please hang in there. If you like my content, I would really appreciate it if you share my videos with your friends and family and invite them as well, because I would like to encourage as many people as I possibly can to look into cooking homemade food for your dogs instead of the store-bought food. And one last thing. So in this video, I have used lentils as a source of carb. If you have been using any other source of carb in the dog food that you make, then I would really like to know that. So please add comments and let me know what other source of carbs that you guys use when you cook for your dogs. And I would be more than happy to share my experiences with those if I have used it in the homemade dog food that I've made. And I would really like to hear from you all. And if you like to see any other types of videos from me related to dogs, please let me know that as well in your comments, and I'll make sure to look into that and try to make videos on that. And this channel that I've created is particularly for anything related to dogs. So it's not just for dog nutrition. I'm also going to add videos that, you know, hopefully helps the pet parents and their fur babies with other things that are important for dogs. So hang in there, stay tuned, and I really appreciate your time that you took to watch my video. Thank you and have a good day. Bye.